Happy snow day. I just happened to be home for a little while and catching up on a few things before my first person at the office comes through. So, yay! We get to celebrate a snow day. So the kids are home maybe, and maybe you're all baking some Wait a second. The kids are home. Those little vessels of viral contagion. Ugh. Why is it that kids catch and carry disease so well? Well, partly it's because they're full of mucus. Mucus holds on to pathogens like colds and flu viruses. To some degree, kids and mucus go together, and that's because of the link between their immature digestive systems and mucus itself. And I'll talk about this a little bit in a minute. But kids also catch and carry disease because, well, their immune systems are immature. And coming into contact with their environment is a part of the process of building a mature immune system. And sometimes that results in catching a cold. So why is it that we adults with our grown-up immune systems catch their stuff so easily? And our coworkers' stuff, and our spouse's viral stuff? Well, here's a few of the reasons we catch colds and flu as adults. Lack of sleep, overwork or excessively busy schedules, chronic worry, lack of exercise, and a really big one, poor diet for your constitution. All of these factors make us adults vulnerable to the impact of cold and flus going around this season. And here's a little secret. These factors make us vulnerable to this disease all year long, not just winter. Now, we have a big degree of control over some of these factors, and the one that I want to talk to you about today is diet. Specifically, the factors in our diet that produce too much mucus and too much dampness in our bodies. Because these are the two of the biggest problems that make us vulnerable to disease right now in this season. How do you know you have too much mucus or dampness? Well, for starters, some of this is easy. You're full of snot and phlegm, right? You're constantly clearing your throat, right? You're coughing up loose, clear mucus. And these things might be associated with a cold for you right now. But in general, if your constitution is damp, here's how you know. You're probably puffy or swollen or feel like you retain water all the time. And because you retain water, you don't pee out a lot of urine. And your stools might be loose or watery. You could feel heavy and gain weight even if you just look at food. We all know how that feels, or some of us do. You might be bloated most of the time. Worse at the end of the day. And also another sign that your constitution is damp is that you have a tendency to develop nodules or lumps on various parts of your body, like your stomach, your arms, the backs of your shoulders, your legs, sometimes right here on the wrist, right? So in Chinese medicine, we have a saying, the earth element creates damp and the metal element stores it. What this means is that poor digestion becomes a problem for the lung and the large intestine. In other words, dampness creates mucus in the lungs and mucousy, loose, sticky stools. Yuck. Sorry, but we got to talk about this in order to understand the constitution that creates mucus and brings on the tendency to catch colds and flus. All right, so you're already more prone to conditions with mucus if your constitution is damp, right? So there you go. So what can you do about it? How can you minimize excess dampness and mucus and then stay healthy in every cold and flu season for the rest of your life? Well, we don't want to completely eliminate mucus because we need that healthy goo to catch the nasty stuff that's going into our mouths and our noses, right? Our own healthy mucus flushes out the viruses and dirt and environmental particles and other pathogens down what we call the tracheal toilet, which is basically your digestive system starting right here in your mouth and throat. A healthy mucus lining is a really big essential factor in respiratory health. Did I just blow your mind? Well, stick around, there's more. Okay, so there's some easy ways you can reduce mucus by making really small changes to the way you eat. These might not seem really small to some of you, but here's some news that may not be news. The top 3 mucus-producing foods in the American diet are, say it with me, grains, sugar, and dairy. Right. By reducing the amount of these 3 foods in your diet, you'll significantly impact how much phlegm and dampness your digestion produces. Okay? And if you don't believe me, take these 3 out of your diet for 3 days, just 3 days. You'll notice a ridiculous shift in your well-being. I promise. So let me talk about these foods for a minute. Grains in and of themselves are not the bad guy, right? Grains are not a bad food. They provide certain nutrients and a degree of fiber to our diets. But for damp constitutions, and that's what we're talking about today, and you know who you are, they increase the tendency to produce more mucus. And you also know what that means, right? Allergies, blocked sinuses, weight gain, bloating in the stomach, loose stools, and here's why we're here today, snot. Now about sugar, sugary foods. Oh, I hate to talk about this because this is one of my weaknesses, but sugary foods also increase dampness in the body by interfering with digestion. So what do I mean by sugar? Well, I'm talking about foods that are like downright sweet, full of sugar, just juicy, sugary. Pastries and pies and cookies and candy and some kinds of chocolate, cake, you know what I'm talking about, right? But also the less obvious ones are foods that just taste excessively sweet, all right? So soft drinks are one of the worst ones here, right? Soft drinks, if they're not diet, contain a lot of sugar. 16 teaspoons, I think, is the number. And if they are diet, contain artificial sweeteners, which create the sensation that they are extremely sweet, which stimulates our desire for more sweet. Okay? So did you hear what I just said? Even artificial sweeteners can stimulate our desire to have more sweetness. Another food that tastes excessively sweet that we need to avoid if we have a damp constitution is fruit that is super sweet. I'm talking about things like melons, right? Cantaloupe, watermelon, pineapple, honeydew, etc., right? And another category here of food is sticky, damp foods. Things like bananas and avocados and dates and figs. And here's another one. I have to single this one out because we're eating a lot of these this time of year, right? Oranges. Oranges are one of the worst offenders of causing dampness in damp people. And if you don't believe me, just pick up an orange and within a minute of eating it, you get this big wad of mucus in the back of your throat, right? Try it out. Oranges, yeah, I know they're full of vitamin C, and that's a really great thing for us this time of year. But you can get vitamin C from other fruits that don't cause phlegm. Things like green apples and pomegranate and cranberries without the sugar added, I mean, and blackberries and raspberries and blueberries and a nice firm pear. And you'll notice that all of these have just a tiny degree of sourness to them, right? Okay, so someone's asking, how do I know if I'm damp? After we get through this video, you can replay it and you'll see that I give a whole list of ways to understand what a damp person is, okay? So the foods that I just named are not bad in and of themselves. They're just not appropriate for someone with a damp constitution who tends to be very mucousy and gooey, which make them more vulnerable to flus and colds, right? Okay, so a couple more ways to avoid dampness in your diet and in your body. Eat a strictly warm diet, especially in cold weather. Okay, I can't emphasize this enough. I talk about it all day long in my practice. Cold food injures digestion in a person who is already prone to dampness. Okay, and it can also injure digestion when it's eaten over a long period of time, even in someone who isn't prone to dampness. It can create dampness over a long period of time. It causes everything, coldness in food and diet causes everything from bloating to weight gain. And in Chinese medicine, we say that dampness combined with heat can even cause cancer in some circumstances. So it's a serious thing. Now, a warm diet allows a mucousy digestion to stop working so hard and get a break, right? You don't want to stress out your tummy and end up with a cold, do you? So what do I mean by a warm diet? Here's where the dairy thing comes in, right? No ice cream, no milk, no cheese, no iced tea, no iced water, no refrigerated fruit. If it comes out of the fridge and you don't warm it up, it's too cold for you. Even if you do warm it up, like milk and cheese, for instance, if you put them in a recipe, they're still mucus producing, but they might be just slightly better in that circumstance. Certainly better than just snacking on cheese slices to go along with your favorite crackers, or chugging a big cold glass of milk along with your sandwich. If you want to know more about why coldness creates dampness, you can Google this information. Put in the word cold, damp, and the letters TCM, and that'll help explain in the words of traditional Chinese medicine why cold and damp are related. All right, so let me summarize the big points for you now that we've talked about a lot about dampness to help you avoid excessive dampness and mucus and keep your body healthy this season and all year long, okay? Number one, too much dampness in your body makes you vulnerable to illness. Number two, grains, sugar, and dairy are the top 3 mucus-producing foods. And number 3, warm up your diet. All right, so there are other body types and dietary imbalances that can lead to illness for their own unique reasons. So maybe in an upcoming video, I'll talk about those other factors that contribute to colds and flus all year long. Because maybe you aren't the damp type, but you want to know why you still catch colds and flus too often. Okay guys, thanks for joining me today in my kitchen to talk about cold and flu prevention from a natural health perspective. I'll see you on my next video. Be sure and comment some of your thoughts or questions below.